go Canon. Question number 4. What are your priorities for this camera? Now, this is just like a two answer question, but this one specifically gets at to what are you willing to do? Are you willing to spend more money to get a certain type of camera, or are you willing to spend less money to get a great camera? So you have to understand exactly, if you spend more money, you get a great camera. You get like an awesome camera. Like if you're spending at 1DX Mark III money, you're going to get a 1DX Mark III. It's going to be a big, chunky, substantial camera that shoots all the frames you're ever going to need. It's never going to bog down. It's going to pretty much go up mountains with you, and you can have it for the rest of your life. Yes, that's an amazing camera. If you're on the cheaper side, like most people are, they don't want to spend, thousands and thousands of dollars for that first camera. They just want to get into it. You can probably buy something used that's still great, like a 5D Mark II. Now, it won't have the best autofocus system in the world, but it definitely will give you great image quality. And that's for the Canon side. But there's an equivalent for the Nikon side, and there's an equivalent for the Sony side. An older camera, I know exactly for the Sony, you got your A7R, that's still a camera. Now, Sony has had issues in the past with overheating and all this other stuff with the new implementation of full-frame mirrorless cameras, but yeah, you do have a good chance of buying a good used camera in all brands. Like, for example, Nikon has a really good Nikon D610, and it's a good full-frame camera for a decent, cheap price, and it's really good for the amount of money that you're going to be spending for it. So those are the top 3 brands, and that's what you need to weigh here. You need to weigh whether or not you want a cheap camera and get some great stuff out of it, or get the best camera with everything out of it. And chances are, if you're going to spend the most for the camera, you probably, don't necessarily need to be looking at the rest of this. But chances are there's still some stuff in here that you might need. All right, the next question talks about longevity. And next question number 5 is, how long do you intend on having this camera? Now, 1 year, you got your 5 year, your 10 year, as long as you can, and maybe you'll upgrade it and sell the other one for an upgrade. Now, the reason I distinguished all of these is because most of the brands are going to give you a camera that will last you for years and years and years. The only camera that hasn't been vetted for years and years and years is the Sony full-frame mirrorless cameras. Now, Sony, especially the newer ones, the Sony mirrorless full-frame alpha SLRs, they tend to have this newer technology. The newer technology, and I'm not saying these cameras are not durable, but they haven't been vetted for over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. For example, my Canon 5D Mark II, it's been out since 2008 or 2008, I believe. And you have to understand that it's been vetted for over years, and I'm still using it. It's 11, 12 years old now, and I am still using the mess out of this camera. No Sony Alpha camera has been out for that long, so there's no way you're going to know if they have that kind of longevity. And also, you have to understand that cameras have shutter actuations. Now, the Sony cameras have the electronic shutter and the manual or mechanical shutter, but you got to understand that has not been vetted, working together over years and decades and decades and decades, like these Canon and Nikon DSLRs. So if I were you, I would stay with Nikon and Canon if you're going to hold a DSLR for years and years and years. This fully digital implemented sensor-based IBIS and all this other stuff, or in-body image stabilization that Sony calls it, it hasn't been vetted for over years. So I would stick with Nikon and Canon if you're going over 10 years for Canon.